Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Hope you're having a fantastic day. As always, shout out to the 19. So I had some other stuff I wanted to do, but wow, it hit me that it's the 5th already. I wanted to get this out because for WNBA fans out there, especially those wondering what is going to happen with the Indiana Fever, tomorrow is the expansion draft for the Golden State Valkyries. So they will be selecting the players for their roster from the unprotected players from the teams in the W. So I wanted to kind of go through that, go through the rules. It's a little different actually than we had all thought it was, or that maybe it had been previously, because I know I'd done a video about the rules and some other things that people had mentioned. There are some slight changes, so we're going to talk about that as well, and then go through kind of who I think the Fever are going to protect and also lose, and what that may look like. But first, what we have here, which I think is also interesting, is Kelly Krauskopf, obviously the um, she has multiple titles. What is she? The president of basketball operations. I forget her exact title now, of course, but anyway, she was talking about the expansion draft and said how there's not any nervousness. You're just preparing because you know you're going to lose a player off your roster, so you're looking at every aspect of what we can do if we lose somebody to shore up that spot. And I believe Stephanie White or Kelly actually has been through multiple expansion drafts from both sides, picking and also being a team that has to protect players. So she's gone through this before, and one of the things that I know we have talked about, I've done videos on, and we've talked about it in the comments with all of you, is the concern for the number of minutes that Caitlin Clark had to play. And we talked about how the fact that the Indiana Fever just don't have a deep bench, and that needs to change because you can't have your starting guards playing, as it talked about here, right? Caitlin Clark, 4 minutes. That's the amount of time she got to be resting on the bench in the playoffs in the two games against the Connecticut Sun. Played the 40 minutes the second game because they just did not have a deep bench. It was too big of a drop off. But you can't have a team taking their star players, because it was Kelsey Mitchell was doing it as well. I think Aaliyah Boston would have been playing even more, but there were some foul trouble issues at times. But you just can't do that for an entire season if you're going to make a championship game run, a title run. So they need depth. And here they are going to lose another player. But there's also the potential for free agents, which we'll get to in a minute as well. Interesting here. I want to sum this up before we move into some other stuff with this. Stephanie White's Indiana Fever press conference. Now, this is a month ago, but it was just interesting the way they're talking about. They didn't mention Kelsey Mitchell. So they're saying it's 100% Caitlin and Aaliyah's team. Kelly is going to make trades around the expansion draft, and they want to add a few veterans to the team. So now to that point, for those like, oh no, I don't like this Kelsey Mitchell stuff. For me, trying to look at it, step back, look at it objectively, I would love for them to keep Kelsey Mitchell. She's balling, but you also have to understand that a team like this, in this situation, with a generational player like Caitlin Clark, you're thinking championships, not championship. And Kelsey Mitchell is an older player who probably will not be a key to other championships down the line. And so there's that balance that, yeah, Kelsey Mitchell is in her prime right now, but her prime is 2, maybe 3 years more. I know it's different from player to player. Some drop off a cliff with their production, some slowly decline and have longer careers. But in her prime, the Kelsey Mitchell we saw this year, maybe 2 or 3 years. So they have to think about that as well when making these decisions, not always to the favor of what the fans want or expect, or even for the player. But like Kelsey has said herself about free agency, it's a business. The team has to look at that as well. So that's also part of it. Well, a couple of things I want to mention before we dig into names, just to clarify how this is going to work. The Valkyries can only select one player per team, And they do not have to select a player from every team. So they do not have to pick one player from all 12 teams. They can keep roster spots open. They also can only select one unrestricted free agent, period. And that is big. And that's why I'm not even going to try and get into they're going to take this player from this team and all that, like, or figuring out who's being protected. The unrestricted free agent numbers are crazy. And I'll go through that quickly for you. I don't want to go through every player on the team, but it is kind of wild. Now, here's the big change from my understanding and what I saw from a lot of other people as well. They cannot select any player that is cored. Now, for all of us, I think that what that means is, hey, in a way, the Indiana Fever can protect 7 because now we all said, yeah, you gotta protect Kelsey Mitchell. No matter what ends up happening, you protect her, you core her, maybe you end up scoring her and then trading her, but you have to keep her from the expansion draft. Well, now we don't have to protect her. They're not counted as one of the 6. So let's assume that the Fever cores Mitchell. That means for me, here's where I want to go through. We got Clark, obviously, Boston, Hull, Fagbenley. And then for me, and this is the one I know people go back and forth on, but no longer having to core to protect Mitchell. Absolutely, for me, you core Grace Berger. I know a lot of people have not gotten to see Grace play because she got screwed over by Christy. I don't know what I'm doing sides, and she spent the season on the bench. Grace Berger is a ball player. Grace Berger, even I think she can have an expanded role as she gets more playing time and the season goes, but even just straight up as a backup guard that can play point, that can share, kind of be a backup guard that can spell Mitchell or Clark. I think you have to, for me, you have to keep Grace Berger. And now without the Mitchell, you absolutely do. So that's 5, folks. Clark, Boston, Hull, Berger, Fagbenley. So I'm going to go through the other few that are possibilities. Damiris Dantas. I loved what she brought to the Indiana Fever team. I loved how she played. I think she's smart. She's skilled. She can clearly shoot the 3, but she's got other shots to her game. But being able to shoot that 3 as a big, she spreads the court, which is huge to the way the Fever play offense. That being said, she's 32, right? So she's getting older. She's probably past her prime. She's had injuries. She played 20 games this year, right? Because when she came on and Christy Sides, I'm sorry, Lynn Dunn, I'll say as well, getting rid of Celeste Taylor, ridiculous. But setting that aside, Dantas played 20 games. She didn't play at all in 23. She played only 15 games in 2022. So, as much as we love her, I'm not sure that we protect her. And then, of course, we have NaLyssa Smith. We know all the issues with NaLyssa Smith. I'm not going to go through them all, but some people don't realize it because of how bad she was this year with her issues and mentality. As a talent, NaLyssa Smith is actually a very talented ball player. She was very good in college. She had a great rookie year. Played very well last year. Had her moments with this team, but clearly there are a whole lot of other issues with NaLyssa Smith that makes you say, hey, I don't think this is the best place for her. Of course, it puts the Fever in a tough spot because if they've made that decision as well, you're not necessarily going to get the value you normally would if there weren't those problems and the rest of the league wasn't aware of those problems. But sometimes it's addition by subtraction. So just getting rid of Smith and getting something in return, even if it's a second round pick or a conditional first, where if it's a top 4 pick, you're not going to get it. But if it's in the bottom 6 or whatever, something like that they work out. But you may have very well addition by subtraction by getting rid of Smith. So you still get something if you protect her and then trade her instead of just letting her go. All right. And then, of course, there's also Katie Lou Samuelson. Yeah, she had a down year. I know a lot of people were down on Katie Lou, but she is a good ball player. She probably wasn't quite the same yet from having a baby. We know that she fits in the team really well with team chemistry when she's playing like Katie Lou. Again, another player that can get down the court to receive those three-quarter darts from Caitlin Clark, who also can spread the floor and shoot the three. I know she wasn't great at it this year, but she is that type of player. However, the downside with that Katie Lou is what if she doesn't bounce back? There's also the fact that she eats up a lot of cap space. I believe her next year's salary is like 180,000 and change. So letting Katie Lou go would create a lot of cap space for the Fever, which is huge. You also then have Melissa Smith as a trade piece as well. And of course, if Katie Lou goes, then you also have Dantas to bring back. You've got Saxton. I hate to lose Saxton, but that may be a risk you have to take. I think if Dantas and Katie Lou and Saxton are unprotected, probably not losing Saxton, but I don't know for sure. So here would be my thing. Yeah. I hate to say this. I really do. But I think number 6, I think you have to protect Melissa Smith and try and trade her. And I think you trade Katie Lou. I think you get an agreement with Golden State and say, hey, take Katie Lou. And then we're also going to give you this draft pick next year. You give us a draft pick that's, not as good. So even if Golden State takes Katie Lou and then decides, hey, you know what? We want to free up that cap space as well, and they cut her, they've at least improved their draft status for next year. But again, on a team like Golden State with her veteran play, I think she'd be a great influence on the team. She may bounce back, so it might be a risk that they would want to take as well. So that is where I am going to leave this. Where Mitchell gets cored, protect Clark, Boston, Hull, Berger, Fagbenley, Smith. See if you can trade Katie Lou, so that's the player that Golden State takes. And then, it's just a risk with Dantas and Saxton. And then, of course, you try and trade Melissa Smith. Look, you may only get a draft pick for her. But again, addition by subtraction, folks. I think that may be the way to go. And hey, let's see how this plays out. It's looking like there's some players that we weren't sure be coming out of the WNBA this year that may now be coming out of college to the WNBA that may. So who knows? But that's how I'm calling it for the Indiana Fever. Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hull, Grace Berger, Tammy Fagbenley, Melissa Smith, who you then trade. Katie Lou. Try and trade her to Golden State. Yes, you're going to risk losing. But look, here's the thing. If they can trade Melissa Smith, they core Mitchell, and then and I know we also have Erica Wheeler, but she's unrestricted free agent, by the way. So she's probably not going to get picked. So I wouldn't worry about that if you're someone who wants Erica Wheeler back for her veteran leadership and what she brings to the team with all that. So you've got Katie Lou, Damiris Dantas, and Victoria Saxton, basically the big 3 that you risk losing. Only one of them, I think, if it's done this way and you trade Melissa Smith, I think the Fever come out of this pretty darn well, especially compared to what might happen with some other teams. That being said, I did want to bring one other thing because I mentioned the Golden State Valkyries can only pick one unrestricted free agent. Folks, let me show you something. I want to scroll and I'm going to rattle these off because I don't want to make you wait forever. But just so you know, we're going to just go through these. There are a lot of unrestricted free agents out there. Atlanta Dream. Tina Charles is unrestricted. Cheyenne Parker-Tyus is unrestricted. Ariel Powers is unrestricted. I wouldn't mind seeing Ariel in Indiana. Chicago Sky, Kennedy Carter, Diamond DeShields, Isabel Harrison, Brianna Turner are all unrestricted. Connecticut Sun, Dewana Bonner, Brianna Jones, Tiffany Mitchell, Astu Natur Fall, Alyssa Thomas, all unrestricted. This is wild. I can't wait for the free agency period to start, folks. Dallas Wings, Natasha Howard, Satu Sabali, unrestricted. Indiana Fever, of course, Kelsey Mitchell, who are core, and then also Erica Wheeler, who, if Erica Wheeler comes back, that contract is going to have to be a lot less, unfortunately, because the Fever, like I said, and that's why I mentioned Katie Lou, they've got to free up some draft space. Aces, Alicia Clark, Sydney Colson, Tiffany Hayes, Kelsey Plum, all unrestricted. The Sparks, Kia Nurse is the only unrestricted player. They're probably in the best shape of anyone. Minnesota Lynx, Natisha Heidemann, Meisha Hines Allen, unrestricted. New York Liberty, man. Kennedy Burke, Brianna Stewart, unrestricted. Courtney Vandersloot, also unrestricted. I think the New York Liberty might get hit hard. I mean, they've got, they have depth. They have depth, so they're really going to lose probably a core player. Phoenix Mercury, Monique Billings, Brittany Griner, Diana Taurasi, all unrestricted. And then this is wild. This one's wild to me. The Seattle Storm, with everything going on with them, right? And I got other stuff I want to talk about with them too. But with all the stuff going on with the coach and everything else, you also have this. Joyner Holmes, Nneka Agwumike, Mercedes Russell, Victoria Vivians, Sammy Whitcomb, and Gabby Williams, all unrestricted. 6 players, unrestricted free agents. And you have all the crazy going on with the so-called, like the bullying and the coaching situation and all that. That is wild. The Seattle Storm could look like a completely different basketball team next year. Completely different basketball team next year. Oh, and by the way, just Jewel Lloyd has requested a trade from Seattle. And of course, we have the Washington Mystics, Elena Del Don unrestricted, and Shatori Walker Kimbrough unrestricted. So there are a lot of unrestricted free agents. That also, like I said, is going to play into who protects which players teams protect, because Golden State can only take one unrestricted free agent as it is from anybody. So that's it. It's a little longer than I thought. Sorry about that. My apologies. But I wanted to dig in, rattle it off real quick one more time. Here's who they protect: Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hall, Grace Berger, Tammy Fegbenley, Melissa Smith, but then trade her. And also try and work out a trade from Golden State to sending Katie Lou to Golden State, so that way they can bring back Dantas and they can bring back Victoria Saxton. That's it. There you have it. That's what I think is, well, actually, that's what I hope is going to happen. So ultimately, Katie Lou, unfortunately, I like Katie Lou, but that's probably the best scenario. And again, because that money, boom, that money goes. That's a big deal. So we can sign players. You just heard me rattle off a whole lot of unrestricted free agents. So Erica Wheeler's contract is huge. Katie Lou's contract is huge. They can bring in some quality talent. Don't listen to the torch media. I'm sorry, the sports media. Players want to play in Indiana and play with Caitlin Clark and win championships. I'm going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Where do you agree or disagree? Who do you think the Fever are going to lose? Because we're not going to know the list of who is protected and unprotected. But who do you think they're going to lose? The big one too is, do you think they'll protect Smith and then try and trade her? Let me know your thoughts. Thanks so much for checking out this video. Really do appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help out a ton. I think we just passed 10,600. So we're closing in slowly. We're the tortoise going for that 11,000. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I will talk to you later.